This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody. Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I mean, I think there are people who play fantasy football who are real football fans. I'm not saying all fantasy football players aren't. I think there are some people who play fantasy football and not a football fan in the sense that I enjoy watching the NFL. I mean, a fan of the sport itself. I think there are some people that play fantasy football. They know the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends, and that's it. They know the numbers, and they don't maybe know what's behind those numbers, how they get there.
What bothers me a little bit about the fantasy community, they basically take the trenches out of their thinking.
And the defense entirely.
Well, yeah, but like specifically, I would say
You're in an IDP league, good for you.
I feel like if you only pay attention to fantasy and that's how you base all your takes off of just fantasy football, then to you, acquiring wide receivers and running backs and tight ends is the only thing that matters.
And these are the people I'm talking to.
I have a fantasy draft tonight, actually. I'm in 2 leagues this year, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's kind of lost a little bit of its luster to me. Maybe that's just working
when people ask me why I don't do it, I was never a big fan of it to begin with. But the thing is, like, what I liked doing was plopping down on the couch on Sunday,
yes,
and watching the points come in real time. And outside of 2 or 3 weeks a year, a few more this year, a few more primetime games for the Patriots, but like, I really can't do that on a Sunday. I'm watching the Patriots game, so. Right. That took a lot out for me. I do still need to set up the punter league, though.
Oh, I knew you were going to.
Can you do the draft tonight?
No, I can't. I have another fantasy draft tonight.
All right, tomorrow night. Tomorrow during the day.
Maybe.
We'll figure out. We'll make sure you can do the draft. We'll make sure you can do the draft.
No,
I don't want to do the punter league without you. I'm not going to do that to you.
I didn't do it last year, and
I know it, and I know how much you missed it. So I want to make sure you get involved this year.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
No, don't worry. We'll get you in. Don't worry about it. I'm happy to do it.
So one thing we were talking about from a fantasy thing, then I promise we'll move on from fantasy and talk Patriots here in a second. But I was trying to think, like, how much of an advantage could having Travis Hunter be? Because if he scores touchdowns on defense, then you might get those points. But I guess in standard scoring, from most places like ESPN and stuff like that, they only give you defensive points if it's an IDP league, if it's like an individual defensive player league. And I think
even if you had like Marcus Jones as an IDP, I remember this was a thing, like when he caught touchdowns, like you didn't get the points for that, which you should, but
yeah. So
I like in baseball, I think you have to like.
I thought I found a loophole with Travis Hunter, Marcus Jones is another good one. Speaking of Marcus Jones, Captain Marcus Jones. I thought maybe I had found a loophole, but I did not. It turns out, at least based off of most standard scoring systems. All right, that's enough fantasy football. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Alex behind the glass with you here for the next couple of hours on Patriots Catch-22. One housekeeping item. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to keep the show at this time slot moving forward for the next 17, hopefully plus weeks moving forward in season. We'll see if that's the case. We obviously have to adjust based off of
we get one Monday night game and one Thursday night game. Right. It all goes out the window. Was it is week 5 Monday night or Sunday night?
That's Sunday night.
Okay,
Sunday night in Buffalo.
We should have some. Yeah, we don't have a non-Sunday game till
it's late in the season. Yeah, it's week 11. I want to say, right?
It's the Thursday night football game, right? Because they're Thursday.
Yeah, it's late.
And then Monday night's a few weeks later, so that'll be a mess. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yes. So not too. I think we'll be able to leave the show here, which will be good. So 10 to noon on Wednesdays, and of course you can get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. But I want to open with some Patriots news. Then we are going to talk a little bit big picture about the season as a whole. I have 9 questions going into the season about your 2025 Patriots. I don't like using the word concerns because, we have to be careful about concerns here, but also because I feel like it's not necessarily that they're all concerns. I just feel like they are questions. They're questions about the team. So we have 9 of them. We're going to get through those, and then we'll talk a little bit of Raiders. We'll take your wonderful calls. We'll preview the game on Sunday. We'll get some emails in. But starting with the news, Alex, we were not on the air, or the show had already aired last week before the Patriots released Jabrill Peppers. That happened on Friday afternoon. A surprise, no doubt about it. One of those surprise cuts that came out of nowhere. But I think one of the big things that I took away from this move, or my take on the whole thing, I want to be consistent, because last week I gave them flowers for holding their water on Kyle Duggar and Anthony Jennings, and at the time Kendrick Bourne, until we found out that was also not for long. But I gave them credit for holding the water on those guys and not just giving up on those guys because they're not scheme fits or whatever the case may be. Your new regime, your guys, like that whole thing. I thought they were a year too early in my mind from having the depth and the talent on the roster to be able to do that and cut ties with NFL players, with NFL caliber talent, with starting caliber talent, frankly, in the case of Jabrill Peppers. I thought they were a little premature to do that. This time around, I was a little bit surprised that they did do that. I thought they were going to hold on to some of these guys through the season and just see where it shakes out. So that's just my opinion on it. But at the same time, just to talk about why it happened, I think at some point in this offseason, pretty early on, I would say maybe even in the spring, because Kyle Duggar, remember, he wasn't practicing, is still working back from that ankle injury during OTAs. It felt like they decided it was going to be Kyle Duggar or Jabrill Peppers, not Kyle Duggar and Jabrill Peppers at some point pretty early on in this offseason, in this process. So they decided and they looked at it and said, we feel like we're better off playing what's really a true free safety and a true strong safety, or a box safety, and not playing those two guys together, which was the vision when they signed both those guys to contract extensions last offseason. So now this new regime comes in and we can get into the minutia of the scheme and all the different things that go into it. But I think they decided that they were not stylistically a fit as a pairing. And we had talked about this when they extended these players, that they were a little bit redundant, that there was definitely skill set overlap between the two of them. And it seems to me, just from the outside looking in, that Mike Vrabel and this coaching staff agreed that they were too redundant to one another. Now, the second point of that is, if you know that there's really only a role for one of these guys on the team, that only one of these guys is really going to see any sort of amount of playing time, then you have a culture locker room angle of this as well, where if a guy like Jabrill Peppers, who former captain, well-paid player, outspoken player, that sort of has a feel, I would say, for the beat of the team and the heartbeat of the team. If you have a guy like that is not playing on Sundays, what does that do to sort of the leadership structure of your roster? So I think that's why we got here. I think it's Duggar or Peppers, not Duggar and Peppers from a football standpoint. And then also, how is that going to jive in the locker room if Kyle Duggar and Jabrill Peppers, who are your two highest paid safeties, aren't playing on Sundays? What was your take on the whole move?
I agree with a lot of that. I just, so I think if they had traded Duggar, Peppers would still be here. But going from Duggar looking like the odd man out to Peppers, who ultimately did they think would help the team more? And you just kind of hope that's what was driving the decision. But I was surprised, because the difference between Duggar and Peppers' role didn't decrease until really late in the summer, to the point where I kind of wondered if it was just a load management thing to keep him fresh for the regular season. And obviously, looking back, that wasn't it. But this is a guy that looked like a leader. We saw it in Fortune Foxborough.
Right.
And it was just apparent if you were watching this team day in and day out in camp. And yeah, I was pretty surprised by it. Good player. I think still a good player. It puts a lot of pressure on Craig Woodson. And that's kind of a theme. I know you have your 7 questions. I have one big one and then a couple smaller ones I want to get to. I don't know where you want to fit mine in, but that's another rookie that's going to be front and center for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that. I said this to Paul the other day. I get if you're doing Madden ratings, then Kyle Duggar and Jabrill Peppers are probably rated higher in the game than Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson. But what they're asking these safeties to do is going to be significantly different. And I think the biggest part of what they're asking them to do that's different, because to me, I've heard a lot about how they're going to ask the safeties to cover in man. I think they always had the safeties covered in man. Like Patrick Chung was their tight end stopper for years here. I think early on in Kyle Duggar's career, when he was playing off of Devin McCourty, he covered tight ends a lot, pretty frequently. So I don't think that the man-to-man stuff is necessarily new. What I think is new is that they're going to be playing a lot more in the deep part of the field as safeties, whether it's split safety structures like quarters coverage or cover 4. I think they're going to be doing a lot more of that. They're going to be doing a lot more of Tampa or cover 2. And so in that, you need to have safeties that are athletic, rangy, instinctive players playing over the top of the defense. And I just don't think that either one of these guys in Peppers or Duggar are really built to do that at a high level. And maybe Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson aren't the splash players, impact on the ball production type guys that Duggar and Peppers would have been or are, but they're going to keep the top on the defense. And I think at the end of the day, that's what they're more looking for their safeties to do. To sum it up, maybe a little bit more concisely, they now want the safeties to be pass game players. They want those guys to be cover players. They want those guys to cover ground, to cover space in the deep part of the field, and not so much be we're coming downhill at the line of scrimmage and stopping the run with our safeties. So that's a big difference in scheme and big difference in skill set. And I don't think it, Mike Vrabel downplayed the scheme thing as a factor in all this, but then he was asked directly about Craig Woodson and immediately brought up athleticism and range. So I feel like that is not a mistake, or that was not unrelated there. So that's Jabrill Peppers. One last thing on Peppers. Are you surprised that, because I took the timing of it as they were probably trying to find a trade for one of those guys, Kyle Duggar or Jabrill Peppers. I know there's a ton of reporting out there that Kyle Duggar was on the trade block and teams were very well aware that he could be had in a trade. So the timing of it to me speaks to they probably were trying to trade Kyle Duggar or Jabrill Peppers.
Yeah.
They didn't really get an offer that they loved. And frankly, Jabrill Peppers was easier to cut from a contractual standpoint. But are you surprised that there was not more of a market to trade either one of those guys?
Peppers, definitely. I think Duggar, just because of the contract, maybe made it a little tougher. But Peppers has shown he can still be a contributing player. So, maybe some teams were the injury last year and him missing time last year. But, yeah, I was a little surprised. I'd want Jabrill Peppers on my football team. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was surprised too. I thought they would be able to get some, even if it's just day 3 pick swap.
If you're like a contender and you're looking for somebody to come in and bring a little edge to your defense, it's exactly the guy you're looking for to me.
Yeah. The other bit of news here over the last couple of days, Patriots announcing their captains, 6 captains, Drake Maye, Hunter Henry, Robert Spillane, Harold Landry, Marcus Jones, and Brennan Schooler. I'm not surprised by most of those. I am surprised a little bit by Marcus Jones, not because anything, no disrespect meant to Marcus Jones. I just didn't really see that one coming. And I am a little bit surprised that Morgan Moses was not named a captain. But what was your take on the captains and more specifically, any surprises for you?
Morgan Moses was a little bit of surprise. I think mainly like a good mix of returning players and guys who are new. Spillane and Landry, those are 2 guys that this coaching staff is very familiar with, even though they're new to New England, so that doesn't surprise me a ton. Schooler was the obvious choice for the special teams captaincy. Drake Maye, starting quarterback, like last year was different. He was a rookie, but he was going to be a captain this year. Really, the 2 spots up in the air, Hunter Henry and Marcus Jones. With all the turnover, were they going to bring back a guy who was a captain last year in Hunter Henry? And I think he's somebody, Mike Vrabel's talked about his leadership. I think he's somebody that has earned that. And then Marcus Jones, there were some questions about just how big of a role he'd play on this team as one of those holdovers, another guy where there were scheme fit questions. Not the special teams captain. I don't think they have 2 special teams captains. That would be pretty rare. Maybe the defense special teams captain, but I think that's a sign that they still have big plans for him on defense. I saw some people surprised Christian Gonzalez isn't a captain. Nothing against Gonzalez, kind of a quieter guy. I don't know that he's like that. Those are all very vocal players. There's not a lot of, outside of maybe Landry, and maybe this is just my point of view, but Drake Maye is obviously the quarterback. Robert Spillane, you hear him a lot at practice. He's jumping around. He's bobbing around. Hunter Henry's a guy that, is a veteran that you see a lot of the players gravitate towards, younger players gravitate towards. Marcus Jones is a guy that has been a vocal leader on this team. You saw it going back to last year. And I think they really, not a lot of those quiet, lead by example kind of guys. These are first off the bus, front of the line guys. And it doesn't surprise me. That's what Mike Vrabel wants. But it's nothing against Gonzalez. I just think there's kind of a theme here that he maybe doesn't fit as much.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even consider Christian Gonzalez in the running to be a captain. And again, that's no disrespect to Christian Gonzalez whatsoever. Right. But I was on your station last night with Joe Murray, and he brought up like Marcus Jones being a captain. This is what your station does, right? They spin it as like, was this a shot at Gonzalez? I didn't even consider that angle of it because, to all your points, I don't think Gonzalez is really necessarily that vocal guy. I think there will be a point in his career where he's sort of like the elder statesman, and it becomes like a quiet leader and just someone that people lead by example and look at and say that's the peak. That's a guy that is doing it at a really high level. And then also, frankly, like he hasn't practiced since July 28th.
That's probably part of it,
and we're going to get to that, but that's a big part of this is like, these are the guys that have been there, that have been practicing every single day, that have been out on the field and in the meeting rooms and in the huddles and all that good stuff. So it's not a knock on Gonzalez. I don't really care, to be honest with you, about like, is this guy a captain? Is this guy not a captain when it comes to like the best players on the team?
Right.
So it doesn't really bother me one way or another, but there's the last thing on the captains. One thing I was thinking about with Marcus Jones, I agree with you that he's like a sneaky vocal guy. He's also a guy that has a little bit of, like overlap or similarities with Mike Vrabel in the fact that he plays in multiple phases. Right. And I wonder if that was a factor at all, that Mike Vrabel sees, even though they're very different players, very different positions, all that stuff, he sees a little bit of himself in terms of like the sacrifice for the team. Like if they said to Marcus Jones, we want to put you on offense, he would play offense. If they want him to return kicks and punts, he's returning kicks and punts. If they want him to play slot corner, if they want him to play safety, like he's doing all of it. And Mike Vrabel was the same way as a player. He was a three-phase player. And I wonder if there's a little bit of that going on with Marcus Jones as well. So
do we know, so two things. One, do we know if they're going to actually physically wear the C this year? Or is that going away?
I believe so. Okay. But I don't know that for a fact.
The other thing, I do like that they did this. So there's those 6 captains, but then Kayvon Chason is going to be a game day captain or a week-by-week captain. For week 1, it's against his former team. Yep. Obviously had a great summer. I think deserves some recognition. Do we know, is this going to be, like, is there going to be a game day captain every week?
That would be my guess, is that it's going to rotate.
Love that. That's super college football-y, but I just think that's a cool thing. Like, it's a good way get guys a little extra recognition. You'll see it a lot of the times, like is the case with Chason. It's against, a former team, or maybe if a guy has a really big matchup that week and just kind of, hey, we got your back, we're behind you thing. I've always liked, again, that's more of a college thing than the NFL thing, although I know the Titans did it last year, post-Vrabel, because Harold Landry was a game day captain at one point last season. I don't know if Vrabel did it in Tennessee before that. I'd need to look that up, but I'm a fan of it. I think it's a cool little thing, and it'll be fun to track that all year.
Yeah, that is a cool thing, and it'll be fun to track. I agree, and I like it too, because even though it's probably not a ton, like at least it might be a little bit of motivation for some of these other guys that weren't named captains but probably deserve to be recognized as leaders of this team. Like that might be, 1 week the game day captain, like when they play the Jets, is it Morgan Moses, right? Something like that. Like they just to give those guys a little bit of kudos and a little bit of love, even though they're not considered permanent captains. So that's the news of the day. And
so it looks like Tennessee just had 7 captains.
So I thought they had 7 captains his last year. I had looked that up before the captains came out to try to get a gauge of exactly how many they would have. So it sounds like they're doing 6 + 1 with the rotating game day captain as instead of 7 permanent captains. Really quickly though, do you know what I like to eat, Alex, when I'm watching football games? Some Tostitos. Are you Tostitos?
I do like
guy?
Tostitos. I get the scoops.
So football fans though know that traditions matter, turning moments together into something truly epic. They are what inspire us to make our masa and tostitos the traditional way, starting with whole corn kernels. No artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives, all to give you that perfect crunch. Discover your next tradition this football season. Head to the store, grab your Tostitos team bag, and scan the code for a chance to score in an epic experience with the Patriots. Tostitos, tradition matters. All right, let's get to our questions. I have 7 plus 2 from you, so 9 questions.
Okay.
7 of my own. We'll get to your questions. Don't worry, I'll mix them in there. But the number...
do mine first or last, because mine's much more bigger picture. Yours are more individually focused.
Okay, we'll mix them in there.
Okay.
So I think you got to start here whenever you're talking about big picture questions with the Patriots, and that's just with Drake Maye. And we've given a lot of takes on this show about Drake Maye over the last several months and where he's at and all that good stuff. But now the regular season's here, and it's time to really see where he's progressed and all that stuff. So my question with Drake Maye is, does he take that next step? I think that's the number one question with this team right now. But also, like, what would that look like to you? What would it look like for him to take the next step? Because I think it's subjective. It could be wins, losses. It could be statistical production. It could be eye test. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you could a lot of different angles, and it's I think a subjective thing, person to person.
So I mean, I think it's multiple things, right? The big number that I've continually thrown out, under a turnover a game. So if he plays all 17 games, and this is interceptions and fumbles, 16 or fewer interceptions and fumbles. Now, that can't come at the expense of making plays. You want to see the touchdowns as well, but that's kind of been a big one for me, because I think this defense should be a turnover a game defense. I really do. So if Drake Maye can keep it under a turnover game, you've now won the turnover battle for the season. That is going to really help you out. The other thing, a lot of people point to year 2 as kind of the make it or break it year for quarterbacks, and there's some truth to that. Usually, if you don't figure it out by the end of year 2, you're not going to have much success in the NFL as a quarterback, right? It's you get these guys like Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith, and we'll see this week, and Sam Darnold, but they usually have to change teams, and it's years later. And, you know, if you're going to kind of hit it from the jump as a top pick and justify that pick, you got to show progress in year 2. Josh Allen was one of these guys, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. I think Bryce Young, we'll see what he does this year, but people don't realize how good Bryce Young was. Second half of last season, we'll see if he can continue to build on that. But there's also within that, whether it's Allen, Burrow, Hurts, I mean, a lot of these top quarterbacks who kind of, it clicked in year 2 for them, they were a lot better in the second half of the season than they were in the first. And it wasn't like they flipped a switch in week 8 and suddenly were good, but there was this gradual growth. So however you want to measure it, turnovers, touchdowns, you want to use one of your Fakakta numbers, go for it. Is Drake Maye better at the end of the year than he was at the beginning? I think that's also very important. I don't want Drake Maye to play his best game of the year this Sunday. I hope he plays a good game. I think that'd be great. If he plays his best game of the year this Sunday, and we look back at it and say he peaked in the opener, that's probably not a good thing. Remember who peaked in the opener year 2?
We're talking Mac Jones.
Yeah, I had a whole thing about he threw for 300 yards. Why are you worried?
Some of us didn't really feel like that
you stood on that hill alone, and you were correct. I wanted to give you your flowers for that. So that's not me saying I hope Drake Maye sucks Sunday. Obviously not. And it's not linear. There's going to be some up and some down, but his last 8 games collectively should be better than his first 8 games, if that makes sense. Like, I want to see him continue to get better over the course of the year. If he's stagnant, even if he's okay, but he's just stagnantly okay, that would be a little worrying long term. So cut down on the turnovers and improve as the season goes on. Those are my 2 big check marks for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that mine is more, and I think yours is too, like eye test subjective, just sort of feel thing.
I can't give you an exact, like 30 touchdowns would be great, but if it's 30 touchdowns and 25 turnovers, I'd be kind of worried about that.
And
that's Jameis Winston.
And I'm also not like a big, I don't really do counting stats either, because if he has 20 touchdowns, but they have like 25 rushing touchdowns as a team because they're running it in from the 5-yard line
I'll be
all the
honest,
time.
If they're running in from the 5-yard line all the time, don't you think he's going to be a little part of that?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if that is what they do, is they get down, he gets them down there, and then they're just a smash mouth team at the goal line and they're just punching the ball in without throwing it, then I'm not going to hold that against Drake Maye that they didn't have a ton of red zone passing production because they're running the football effectively down in the red zone. So what I look at with Drake Maye, and I think this is just true for all these quarterbacks, and it's sort of a feel thing or an eye test thing that you're just going to have to trust your gut on, is does he start to take control of games? Like, does he start to really be a master at his craft? And I think when you look at all these great quarterbacks across the league, what you notice with all of them is that they have this like cool, calm sense of the game where it just feels like they are the ones that are operating at a higher level than everybody else. And to your point about it getting better as the season progresses, this is probably not going to happen immediately for Drake Maye, especially with a new offense and a new offensive coordinator and a new system to assimilate to. But eventually you'd like to see him have that feel of the game where it is clear that he's the one dictating the terms of the game and to the defense versus reacting to the defense. And I wonder if they can get him to that point this year. I might be a little bit too high of a bar, but just when I watch quarterbacks around the league, whether it's Lamar, whether it's Allen, whether it's Burrow, whether it's Mahomes, obviously Brady here for us for the last 20 years, you can tell that they have this, they are above it, right? Like they're operating above everybody else where they have this instinctive feel for the game. And that's what I would like to see from Drake Maye. I understand that he has all the physical abilities. I understand that he can make some unbelievably good throws. But can he situationally lock it down? Can he perform late in games? Is he going to be able to, third down, they're going to throw something exotic at us, and we're going to handle that from a pre-snap perspective of getting everybody blocked and knowing where our weaknesses are, our vulnerabilities are, and being able to beat those types of things. Once you're playing that chess match as a quarterback, that's when you're reaching that next level, because all these guys have physical talent. I think you can name 20 quarterbacks, 25 quarterbacks in the NFL that have physical talent. But the question is can you really be the maestro? Can you be that chess master above all else? And I think that's what made Brady great. I think that's what made Manning great. I think that's what made a lot of these guys great. So I'm looking for Drake Maye to take that next step there, because we will be able to, at the end of the season, make a sizzle reel of 15 great Drake Maye throws. I have no doubt about that. But is he going to be clutch? Is he going to be situationally locked in?
Is he going to be consistent?
Is he going to be consistent? Is he going to solve problems on the fly that the defenses are presenting to him and be a step ahead of defenses? I think that's where they really need to get him going, is the thinking part of the game more so than anything to do with physical. That's decision making too, to your point about turnovers. Yeah. So all that stuff is really the next step, and I love Mike Vrabel's approach. I like Josh McDaniels too, but we've seen it in all the behind the scenes stuff in Forge and Foxborough, how much he's pushing Drake Maye on those elements of it, of being clutch, of being on the details situationally, on leading, on showing that energy and that leadership quality to his teammates. That is going to end up making or breaking this quarterback. It breaks all of these guys.
So just real quick to close the loop on what I was saying earlier. Josh Allen, second year.
Yes.
First 5 games, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 224 passing yards per game. Finishes the season with 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I know some of these guys have running stats, but nobody's really worried about Drake Maye's ability to run the ball. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl winning quarterback, year 2. Starts 3-5. Throws for year 2 as a full-time. I might have the wrong year for Hurts. I'm gonna skip that one. Joe Burrow, second year, and he's coming off an injury. Starts with 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in his first 9 games, 277 yards a game. Finishes the season 10 and the team was 5-4. Finishes the season 10-6, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Lamar, first 5 games of his second year, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks, 254 yards a game. Throws for 3,100 yards. 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So 20 touchdowns to 1 pick down the stretch his second year. They start 3-2. They finish 13-2. Justin Herbert, second year, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, just under 2,000 yards total to start the season over his first 7 games. Finishes the year throwing for 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, 15 picks. So with just about all of these guys, I know it bears out for Hurts. I just instinctively pulled out the second year of his career when his second year as a full-time starter is 2022. It's a year later. All of these guys, like mid-October is when it clicks.
Right.
You know, at some point
and
early
none of these
mid-October,
guys, it was about
that's when it
physical
takes
ability.
up.
They all
Right.
had the physical ability.
It's just, you got to see a certain amount of it. So
yeah.
to go back to your point, like what's a good year for Drake Maye? Let's keep an eye. They go to Buffalo in week 5, and we all know that's going to be a tough game, right? After that, they have a stretch where it's the Saints, the Titans, and the Browns. And granted, 2 of those games are on the road, but that's kind of in that timeline where a lot of these year 2 quarterbacks have taken off. It's a weak part of the schedule. There should be a ton of opportunities for him to, as he said, and he said in a different context, but get some layups in before you start shooting threes. Those 3 games.
That line.
What?
That was right up your alley. That
I
line.
love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he knows the truth about it.
That covers 2 sports for you.
That really does. It's a very useful take, and
Yeah.
you can't say he's wrong because you won't say he's wrong. And he was a good basketball player back in the day, so he knows what he's talking about.
He could shoot threes too. Yeah,
But he got the layups first. That's the stretch where I'm looking for Drake Maye to really take off. Like if Drake Maye is going to have the kind of ascension of some of those guys I mentioned, there's lesser quarterbacks. I know there's like the 5 best or 4 of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. If he's going to have the ascension, that to me is where it starts.
So
is in that run of games, and then we're going to be talking about, you'll hear my station. It was the Saints, Titans, and Browns. Like, of course he's playing well. What did you expect? After that, you got the Falcons who have a really good defense, the Bucks, the Jets, the Bengals have less of a defense, but like that will be the barometer. Okay, is he making the Falcons look like he made the Titans look?
Yeah. So you said it earlier. I want everybody to keep in mind that this development is not going to be linear.
Yeah.
If you're expecting him to just continue to ascend, and this is why, with some of the reporting on what's been going on at practice when we were able to watch practice during training camp, this was part of my, I guess, gripe with the way it was being talked about with Drake Maye, is because if you were just expecting every single practice to look great and that was the only way you were going to be like pleased with his training camp in year 2 here, was that if it was just a arrow pointed absolutely upward to the sky every single day, better, I don't think that's how it worked with any of these guys. I don't think that's how it's worked with any quarterback in the history of the league, that every single practice was better than the last practice. You learn from the mistakes, you take the lumps, you figure it out, you're practicing, you're trying things. Like that's where the guys that have ascended, and then all of a sudden, to your point about all the stats, it just clicks. They're great.
Not game to game, but the overall trend is upwards as we get to the end of the year.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second one here. So just kind of going, I went almost position by position with it a little bit.
Okay.
Just some of my lingering questions here. Number 2 on my list was, does Ramondre Stevenson remain the lead early down back? So in my mind, based off these running back roles of what they might have here this season, Travion Henderson is going to be stagnant. I think his role is going to be the same all year long.
Right.
I don't think they're going to mess with Travion Henderson's role. They're going to say, this is what we're going to do with you. I think it will probably be around 12 to 15 touches a game, both in the run and pass game. And that's going to be his role for his entire rookie season. The spot that might change is going to be that early down back role between Ramondre and Antonio Gibson. So that is the one that I could see some fluctuation of usage, whereas Henderson, I think they're just going to kind of keep him on the status quo. With Stevenson and Gibson, the obvious number 1 question is, can Ramondre hang on to the football?
Yeah.
Because I do think he's their best 1st and 10 from the 25, regular personnel, fullback in the backfield.
Body blowback.
He's the best early down between the tackles back
Yep.
on the team. But we all know about the ball security issues, and I don't think that Antonio Gibson is a slouch. I think Antonio Gibson is a solid NFL running back. The stats last year more than bear that out. So long story short, I would just say, can Ramondre hold on to the football long enough to hold on to his job? Like, that's really what it comes down to, because I do think Antonio Gibson is going to be a consideration not before long if Ramondre Stevenson continues to have ball security issues.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there, and He can handle some of that stuff Stevenson does. And he's a capable pass catcher as well. So he gives you a little more unpredictability when he's on the field. I just think the big thing is they need somebody reliable in that role. You cannot use Travion Henderson as a bell cow back. They tried to do that at Ohio State. It seriously limited his production. It's more, he's not a volume player. You guys have heard me talk about this. Like, he's got to be, you use him in spots, third down, 2-minute, things like that. So Stevenson stepping up and returning to what he's been. And I'm with you. I think he's a solid early down back when he holds on to the football. And 7 total fumbles over his first 3 years and then 7 alone last year. That's jarring. And that trend cannot continue. But if he can get back to holding on to the football, I think him and Henderson is a good 1-2 punch. And then Gibson factors in there as well. And I think he can kind of spell both when needed. You almost throw him in that Rex Burkhead role. But if Stevenson's putting the ball on the ground, it changes everything. Like, to me, ideally, Ramondre Stevenson's usage rate is probably low to mid 40%. Travion Henderson is high 30 to low 40%. And then Antonio Gibson makes up the difference wherever he makes it up.
Yeah.
That's what I think that ideally it will look like, but you can't do that if Ramondre Stevenson can't hold on to the football.
The comparison that I keep on going back to with Travion Henderson is Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe he's not as good as Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that remains to be seen. But just from a usage standpoint and a skill set role standpoint, I think they're very similar in terms of how they should be used. Jahmyr Gibbs has been 50-55% of the snaps in Detroit.
56 last year. Yeah, that's. I don't know that I'd have to see what his touches are.
So he was his rookie year. I want to say he averaged somewhere around 15 or 16 touches a game.
He had 234 touches. He had 302 touches last year. I don't think you can give Travion Henderson.
No, but
300
that's
touches.
also, we're also talking about years down the line. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs has established himself.
I think that this is just kind of who Travion Henderson is.
I think there's a chance that it can get there eventually for Travion Henderson. I just wouldn't do that to him as a rookie. But it's different. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is an established star in the league. So now obviously the Lions are featuring him more out of the backfield. As a rookie, that wasn't necessarily the case right out of the gate. So they eased him into things. He's always been right around 14, 15, 16 touches a game.
Yeah.
And his impact is so big still because he's so explosive and because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands that even though he doesn't play the entire game, it still doesn't feel like you watch the Lions and you're like, where's Jahmyr Gibbs been? Right?
He's a massive impact player.
Right. So I think you can still have a massive impact.
Also, side note, I just pulled up touches per year. 2014. Dude, this is how much the game has changed. So last year, Saquon Barkley led the league, 378 touches, which was 40 more than the previous season. You go back just 10 years. 2014, DeMarco Murray had 450 touches.
I remember that
for the Dallas Cowboys. Could you? I don't know if that's possible in the current NFL.
Yeah, I remember DeMarco Murray was. Talk about fantasy. DeMarco Murray was the fantasy back because of the volume that he was getting. It was insane.
1,800 yards on the ground, another 400 through the air. Dude. He had a. That had to have been that was a well-earned offseason by DeMarco Murray. 449. Larry Johnson, 457 going back to 06, but that was a different game.
So Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season, just to end this point, he averaged 12 rushing attempts, and 3.5 catches per game. So right around 16 touches per game. The rushing attempts seems a little high for Travion Henderson. I think that's maybe a little bit too many, but that feels about right. I would say, 12 to 15 touches a game. Most of them playing in the sub pass game and getting the ball to him in space and trying to limit between the tackles running and the body blows that he takes from doing that. I think that's about right. And I would expect that to stay stagnant. Whereas the lead role, the early down role is going to change. I think if Ramondre Stevenson can't hang on to the ball, it's definitely going to change. I don't think that this coaching staff is going to ride or die with Ramondre. I think they like Antonio Gibson. I think Antonio Gibson's a capable running back to step in if they feel like they need to go that direction. So Ramondre is a little bit on notice there. All right, next one here on my list, and then we'll get to one of yours. What version of Stefon Diggs are the Patriots getting? Because this has been another one of those that's been a very hot button topic this summer. The beauty has been in the eye of the beholder with Stefon Diggs, it feels like. Everybody has a little bit of a different take on how his training camp went and how he looked in practice. I have been box checked with Stefon Diggs all summer long. I think he's looked exactly how I expected him to look. I think he looks like he still has explosiveness. I think he looks like he can still get open at this level in this league at his age and coming off the injury. I have very few concerns, honestly, about Diggs on the field and what he's shown me in training camp, but I'm not necessarily in the majority there. I think a lot of other people feel differently. So how do you feel about Stefon Diggs and what version of Stefon Diggs the Patriots are getting?
I'm encouraged. It's a much different setting once you get into these games, but physically he looks better than you could expect given, where he's at coming off the injury. It's just a matter of, does that translate into games? And once he starts getting hit, can he maintain? And is he going to start strong and fall off? But I didn't, when they signed him, I didn't think he was going to play week 1. I thought he was going to open the season on PUP, and I didn't think we were going to see him at camp or anything like that. And I thought this question would be what happens when they get Diggs back. So he's not going to be like prime Diggs like he was in Buffalo, but I still think he can be. I still think he can be a 1,000-yard receiver. It's going to look a little different. We've talked about this. It's more of a chain mover than a big play threat at this point. But I'm excited to see what he can give him.
Eye test wise, I think he's passed during training camp, and I see a guy that still definitely has some juice in his legs and still looks explosive and looks sharp coming out of cuts. So I really have been pretty optimistic about what I've seen from Diggs, and I think part of my optimism too stems from the fact that Josh McDaniels is really, really good at getting receivers like Stefon Diggs open off the line of scrimmage and finding different ways, whether it's between alignment, formations, motion, stacks, bunches, things like that, that Stefon Diggs is just going to get to the top of these routes, and he's going to have a two-way go where he can break in or break out to get open. There's going to be a pocket of space there for him, and I just have a lot of confidence still that he can do that at a very high level. I don't think they're going to be asking Stefon Diggs too much to be the backside receiver in a 3-by-1 and just run by somebody on the outside. I think they realize that he is more of that chain mover, more of that flanker Z role now, where they are going to move him around. And I think that combination of McDaniels combining some of the scheme tools that they can use to get him open, and then Diggs is just savvy and veteran savvy with his route running, is a really nice blend between coordinator and play caller and receiver. So as long as Stefon Diggs still has the juice and is going to be 100% healthy coming off this knee injury, I don't really see any reason for this not to work out. So I've heard a lot of different things about Diggs and how he hasn't necessarily put up a ton of practice production, and team drills and things like that. But just watching him move and watching him practice, I feel like he is more than past my eye test of what I expected him to look like. And we'll see if it ends up translating, but I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to end up translating. So before we continue our list here, Brunt Workwear makes work boots and apparel that are built for the job site and is an official sponsor of the New England Patriots and Gillette Stadium field crew. Their gear is comfortable, durable, and named after the real workers in the trades that helped design it. You can even try Brunt out on the job, and if it doesn't blow you away, they'll let you send it back. Save $10 on your first order at bruntworkwear.com/Pats or with coupon code PATS. Alex, why don't you get to your rookie thing now, and then we'll continue the list here.
So this is kind of my big picture question for the team going. Drake Maye is obviously the big one, right? Where's Drake Maye at? The other big one, I wrote a column about this on 985thesportshub.com this morning. You can check it out. Is, look, it's not a hot take to say the Patriots need to have a better draft class this year than they've had. I get like, shocker, wow, the Patriots need to draft better. Good take, Barth. It's a little different than that. They can't it's not like, all right, they need some of these guys to hit and build depth, and there's some developmental players and we'll see down the road. That's not what this is. That's what it's been in past years. That's not what this year is. They need a lot of these guys to hit, and they need them to hit right away. I count 6 rookies that are either going to start or be in a heavy rotational role right away. There's not a lot of plan B, like depth options behind most of them. And then there's 2 more guys that probably aren't in that position right away, but could get to that situation relatively quickly. So just to go through the list. Will Campbell, and look, Will Campbell's 4th overall pick. No matter the situation of the roster of the team, the 4th overall pick, especially at a premium position, that guy should be starting. So this one's not out of character, but what are the options behind Will Campbell if he doesn't work out or if he gets hurt? It's not. We'll get to it. There's some, but there's not a lot. But Will Campbell, boom, right there. Travion Henderson, we just talked about him. Is he their main big play threat on offense? I mean, I think Pop could give him a little bit of that, maybe Diggs, but he's their best big play threat on offense. They have some other running backs that can help them kind of march their way down the field, but that big play attack, he's the guy.
He's their matchup weapon. Like, he's their biggest mismatch.
It looks a lot different offensively if Travion Henderson does not pan out. So that's 2. Jared Wilson, all indications are he's going to be the starting left guard. And if it's not, and he might end up playing at center if Garrett Bradbury continues to struggle. They have Ben Brown behind him. That's kind of it. Caden Wallace is a converted tackle. He's mainly played on the right side. So, especially if Bradbury continues to struggle, Wilson has to work out. Not much you can do if he doesn't. Craig Woodson, now with Jabrill Peppers traded, he's your starting strong safety. And he's going to play a lot. And he's going to play in the box. And he's going to help play the run. He's going to help cover tight ends. Those are 2 things they struggled with this summer. And then obviously you have Andy Borregales as your starting kicker. There's no plan B there.
Gotta talk about the kickers.
Parker Romo not here anymore.
You're not Julian Ashby love. You're gonna get the Julian.
And I'm just going in the order of the draft.
Okay.
The drafts. And then Julian Ashby, same thing. He's your starting long snapper. There's nobody else here. And in a team, they are tied for the most 1 possession losses in the last 2 years. And I believe they have the 7th worst winning percentage in those games. You want to get better, it starts being better in 1 position games. A lot of that is special teams. Right? You miss a field goal, that can swing it. And you can miss a field goal because of a bad kick. You can miss a field goal because of a bad snap. If they're going to get better, it starts with getting better at 1 possession games. If you're going to be better at 1 possession games, it means being better in the kicking game. So those 2 guys are in a key spot as well. So that's Campbell, Henderson, Wilson, Woodson, Borregales, Ashby, who are either starting or if not starting, because I think the concept of a starting running back, unless you're Derrick Henry, doesn't really mean anything, in heavy rotational roles. Then you have Kyle Williams, who... It looks like their base 11 to start the season is going to be Booty, Diggs, and Pop. Mac Hollins is going to mix in there as well. So it's a little tougher to tell exactly where Kyle Williams sits in that depth chart, just because, and using not the unofficial depth chart, like really what they're doing, right? He missed the last 2 weeks of camp because he got hurt in the Minnesota game. So it's tougher to tell, but they're going to need his speed. They're going to need his speed. They're going to need his ability after the catch. He is going to work his way into that rotation at some point during the year, and injuries, Pop Douglas has had some trouble staying on the field. Diggs is coming off the ACL. Those are probably the 2 guys who are chiefly in front of him. They're going to need Kyle Williams to play meaningful snaps for them at some point this year. And then the other guy is Marcus Bryant. Marcus Bryant ideally plays no snaps this year because he's the 3rd tackle and you want your starters to start. Do you know how many tackles played all 17 games in the NFL last year?
Not many, I bet.
17.
Yeah.
And of those 17, there's only 2 sets of teammates. The Saints had both starting tackles play all 17 games, and the Packers had both starting tackles play all 17 games. That's it. So odds are Marcus Bryant's going to have to play at some point, and he's going to have to start at some point. He's clearly the top backup right tackle behind Morgan Moses. At left tackle, they do still have Vidarian Lowe, but I wonder, Evan, just given the way this coaching staff has approached players they inherited, if Marcus Bryant would get the first crack at that if Will Campbell gets hurt. Now, maybe he has... a shorter leash at left tackle than he does on the right side with Vidarian Lowe still there. But odds are Marcus Bryant's probably going to start a game or 2 at least for this team at some point this season.
Especially at right tackle.
That's just what history tells us. The way, again, 17, that's it. That's both sides. 17 of 64 tackles last year started all 17 games. So you're going to probably see him at some point. So that's 6 rookies starting or in impact roles right away. Kyle Williams will be in one, should be in one at some point. You hope Marcus Bryant's not, but odds are he will be. This is not, hey, they're developmental players. He's going to grow into this role. Bill Belichick used to ease the rookies in. There's a veteran there alongside him as either plan A or a solid plan B. And okay, well, if he doesn't hit right away, we have other options and there's time. That's not, when we talk about draft classes hitting in the past, a lot of it is, you look at last year's class, Javon Baker, developmental player, that 2022 class that didn't pan out. There were developmental players there that, okay, well, he's probably not going to make an impact year 1, but that doesn't mean the pick isn't a hit. And obviously a lot of these guys didn't, but if he comes along in year 2, year 3, he's going to replace this veteran that's on the roster, and that was the plan. You're drafting a guy year 2 early. And that can be a successful draft in some context. Now, this isn't totally uncommon for a team that's turning over their roster as much as the Patriots have, but this is where they're at. These are not developmental players. These are guys that if the Patriots are going to be, really make a playoff push, the majority of these guys, if not all, have to hit right away. It's obviously not binary. It's not all or none, but they're going to need a lot of these guys to be starting caliber players as rookies.
Right.
Sorry, that's the whole rant.
No, that's fine. It was a good rant. I think the biggest thing that you just mentioned there at the end that stands out to me is starting caliber. It's one thing to be playing.
Right.
It's another thing to be playing well. And I think that's what we've seen in these last couple draft classes is that guys have maybe been playing because the depth on the roster didn't allow them time to not play and develop in the behind the scenes like maybe they did when at the height of the dynasty when they just had droves of depth. For example, last year, Layden Robinson, he was playing. Right. Was he playing well?
But I would even say the last year's draft, like
Jalen Polk was playing, but was he good? But
they had, and maybe they obviously weren't great, but they had plan Bs for some of those guys. They had Kendrick Bourne coming off IR. They had KJ Osborne, who didn't work out, but was a veteran who had, played in the league and made some plays.
Like, to me, isn't like Booty and Mac Hollins, like those guys.
So at wide receiver, sure. And that's why I didn't include Kyle Williams on my list of the 6 real impact guys. Who is the Kendrick Bourne coming off IR to rescue the team of big play threats on offense for Travion Henderson? Who is the Kendrick Bourne at left guard if it doesn't work out for Jared Wilson?
That's fair.
You can say it might be Ben Brown there, but okay, what if Garrett Bradbury doesn't work at center?
Well, we'll get to that. But
who is the Kendrick Bourne? I guess that would be Kyle Duggar. But the coach, that's kind of you get my point.
Yeah, and I think we're in the same spot with it. Like they need these rookies to be good. Like it's not they can't just be out there. They can't just be taking up space. They need to actually play and play well.
And it's different than your average. But the point is, it's every year you want your rookies to be good, but most years, most teams, and again, this is not unique to the Patriots. This is not something that's unprecedented, but most years, most teams, okay, well, if this guy isn't great from the beginning, we have other veterans we can put in there, or we can, kind of cover him or whatever we can. There's more time for him to develop. If he doesn't really hit that stride in a year or two, it's okay. He can still be a success. We can still be successful as a team this year without him. Can the Patriots still be successful without these guys being good players?
I would say no to Campbell and Henderson. Those two guys, though, were drafted in the top 40, and they should be immediate impact players. I guess in hindsight, now that Jabrill Peppers is gone, Craig Woodson has a lot on his plate. But at the same time, you could still go back to Kyle Duggar, and he's still here. Jared Wilson is another one that probably is in a similar boat as Henderson and Campbell because it's Ben Brown, it's Caden Wallace. Like, those are their backups right now, and you would like to think that Jared Wilson is better than those two guys.
And then the kicker and the long snapper.
Of course.
Those guys, they just have to be good. Like, there's nobody walking through the door. So, yes, 2 special teams players. 6 sounds like a dramatic number. 2 special teams players kind of dresses it up, but
is fair.
The rookies don't just have to hit. They have to hit right away.
And they have to play. Like, they have to be good. Like, again, I think a lot of the times 2 things happen. One, they keep the majority of the draft class on the roster, and everybody's like, oh, good draft class. Everybody made the team. Like, that's not the bar. And the other thing is, oh, the rookies are playing. Okay, but how are they playing? Right? Like, it's one thing to just play. You can play guys like Polk played, Layden Robinson played, obviously Drake played. Like, guys played last year from the rookie class. And now a year later, how do we feel about the 2025 rookie class, or 2024, outside of the quarterback? Not very good. So they have to play it and they have to pan out. And that's a big part of this whole thing right now for Mike Vrabel. And not to change gears here at all, but he was asked on your rival station on EEI about the Micah Parsons trade and whether or not the Patriots were in the Micah Parsons sweepstakes. And Vrabel brought it up. He said, we need draft picks. Like, we need to hit on these draft picks. We need to develop talent. We need high first-round picks. We need depth on this roster. Yep. And we're not in a position yet to be giving away draft picks. That's a really big part of this entire thing. It's probably the biggest part, frankly, of the entire thing and this whole thing working is, can they start drafting and developing their own players again? Can they have homegrown talent where every 2 or 3 years, they don't have to dip back into free agency and spend $300 million on day one of free agency to replenish the top of the roster because they missed on a bunch of draft picks. They can't keep having that happen. They got to have homegrown talent. They got to develop homegrown talent. Now, my next one here on the offensive line. You brought up the rookie offensive lineman on the left side. I think that gets a lot of talk, and rightfully so. I'm actually maybe a little bit more optimistic about that too, because maybe it's just who they're replacing and the bar being so low of them being better than what they've had at left tackle and left guard over the last couple of years. But at the same time, I would much rather take the talent of that Will Campbell and Jared Wilson are bringing to the table and live with some of the rookie growing pains that are inevitable than what they've had the last couple of years. I'd much rather take their arc of development versus Vidarian Lowe and Layden Robinson's. I think they're just so significantly better than the guys that they're replacing, just from a talent standpoint. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, just from a talent standpoint, that I'm willing to give them some grace and let that go. The one thing that I would be concerned about right now on the offensive line is center. I think Garrett Bradbury, in my question with Garrett Bradbury is, does Garrett Bradbury maintain the starting center job? Like, can he hold on to that job for the duration of the season? Of course, taking injuries out of this.
Right.
Does Garrett Bradbury survive the season at center? Because if he doesn't, and he's a liability to the point where they have to replace Garrett Bradbury at center, we've been down this road before where that becomes a house of cards. Like, now all of a sudden you're moving people around, you're putting Ben Brown in the starting lineup, or you're kicking Jared Wilson over a spot to center after he's been playing left guard for 8 weeks. And you're doing this whole thing that they often got in trouble with, for example, with Mike Onwenu, where it was inside, outside, inside, outside. You would love, health permitted, to just put Jared Wilson and Will Campbell on the left side and leave them there for 17 weeks and not mess with those two guys. But if Garrett Bradbury can't hold up at center, then it creates this potential house of cards or shuffle where now everybody's starting to kind of move around there on the interior. So where's your faith right now? Like, where's your level of concern with Garrett Bradbury?
I mean, he's going to be the guy. We talked about this. They're past the point where they can switch it. It's tied into Jared Wilson. If Jared Wilson's solid and you can just plug Ben Brown in there, I think Ben Brown's a capable starting center. Like, I guess the faith in Bradbury is I'm not convinced he's going to be their starting center for 17 games, even injury aside. If Jared Wilson's solid and you can plug Ben Brown in and he gives you more or less what he gave you last year, I think they'll be fine. If you're also worried about left guard, it gets a lot trickier, and now maybe you're more hesitant to pull Garrett Bradbury because who do you want to... now you decide, who do you basically leave out there to struggle? Do you put the rookie out there and risk, upsetting his confidence for the long term? Or do you leave the veteran out there even if he's maybe a slightly worse player? So if Jared Wilson hits, I feel good about their center position, even if he's not there. But Bradbury's somebody we'll be keeping an eye on early. Like, I don't feel like he has a strong hold on that job.
No, neither do I. And it just goes back to like a Scarnecchia thing where a continuity on the offensive line is so important, and it might not be your most talented 5 players on paper that end up being your best 5 on the offensive line. But if they can play on a string and if they can play together and they have that continuity and they're seeing it through the same set of eyes, like, that can trump talent at that position because it's a 5-man unit versus one, individual player. So there might be a case to be made that Ben Brown is better than Garrett Bradbury anyways, just individually, he's just a better player. But I think the better case would probably be that maybe Ben Brown is just better suited to be the center in the current, real time, current time here. So we'll see what ends up happening with Bradbury. There's some optimism about his run blocking based off the preseason, but we all know that play strength and holding up against bigger bodies on the interior is going to be the number one question. Is he getting walked back into the quarterback? Is he able to dig out and move nose tackles? Like, that's really where it starts and ends with Garrett Bradbury. So we'll see if he ends up holding down the position. Ben Brown's had a nice summer, so maybe you can be a little bit optimistic about what he could bring to the table. But if I had to say my biggest concern on the offensive line, it's not the rookie left side, it's center. I really feel like the rookie left side is going to do its thing. It's going to have some highs, it's going to have some lows, but overall, over the course of 17 games, assuming those two guys stay healthy, it's going to be better. It's going to be improved from what they have, and that's the baseline for right now. Center, I don't know if it's going to be better than last year. And that's going to be a big question mark for the team. All right, let's move over to the defense. We probably should go a little bit faster than we've been going, honestly, but let's move over to the defense here. I have a couple of defense, more health-related type things. I think this storyline, Alex, and we brought it up yesterday on Patriots Unfiltered and made me kind of feel even stronger about it. Christian Barmore and his health status, his ability, I would say less so to be out there, but more so to be fully locked in Christian Barmore and be able to give them 75-80% of the snaps and play that much and play it at a high level like we know he's capable of doing from earlier on in his career before the blood clots popped up. He has been sneakily on a pitch count all summer long in practice, where some practices he's participating in full and some he is not. Because of what's been going on with Gonzalez and then obviously all of the question marks on the offensive side of the ball, I feel like this has flown under the radar with Christian Barmore. That are they going to get a fully healthy, full go Christian Barmore come week 1 against the Las Vegas Raiders? I think it still remains to be seen a little bit.
I think he looks right when he's out there. I think you're going to get a fully healthy Christian Barmore. The question is, how much of him do you get? To your point about the pitch count. Is he out there? I'm trying to remember what his snap percentage was his last fully healthy season. Obviously, last year, you kind of throw that out. Good for him getting back, but he was managed at all time. So he played 66% of the snaps in 2023, which was a career high. Do you get him 40% of the time, 50% of the time, 60% of the time? Like, I think when he's out there, he's going to be really good because he looked really good this summer when he was out there. I'm not super worried about that thing. It's more just, does the pitch count continue into regular season games?
And early on in the season, guys rotate all the time. Like week 1, it's going to be a big rotation.
And you know
what?
66% is pretty high for an interior defensive lineman. So if he's up over 60%, I would consider that a full go.
Yeah, I would wait to judge this question for about a month or so because week 1 is always a heavy rotation.
Well, I'd wait to judge most of these questions for at least a month. But yeah,
nobody has played a full game from start to finish yet. So no one, except maybe the quarterback, is going to play every single snap on Sunday, I would say. And sometimes the offensive line, guys like Onwenu, like he might play the whole duration. Campbell, Moses, like those guys might play the whole way. But a lot of the times that doesn't happen even on the offensive line. So week 1's always a crapshoot when it comes to that. And then week 2 is going to be 110 degrees in Miami. So there's going to be another rotation there, whether it's conditioning wise, just because it's early on in the season, or weather wise, being down in Miami in September, that's going to be a factor as well. So when you put those two things together, or at least going into week 3 before we know fully, are these guys going to be full tilt? Is Christian Barmore 100% cleared and healthy? So we'll see what ends up happening. But his snap count, his pitch count during training camp, again, I think other stories have sort of pushed this down. Like if there was no Gonzalez thing, if Jabrill Peppers did not get cut on a Friday afternoon after cut down day, then like these things would probably be bigger stories. Diggs obviously is a huge story, but Barmore's snap count, pitch count, whatever you want to call it, and just overall effectiveness, they need Christian Barmore to be the 2023 version of Christian Barmore. The guy that played last year, all the kudos in the world for him getting back. But he would be the first to admit that he was a shell of himself last year. He did not look like the dominant force that he can be. If he's at the best of his ability, Christian Barmore is a better player than Milton Williams. Like Christian Barmore is their best defensive lineman if he's full peak Christian Barmore like in 2023. So I think it's a big part of it. I think they need Christian Barmore to be his usual wrecking self. So that leads us to the other big injury one that is probably the story of the day right now with the Patriots, and that's the status of Christian Gonzalez. We will be out at practice, Alex, in a couple of hours here, and we'll see whether or not Christian Gonzalez is out there with the rest of the team. He was not out there on Monday. It's been over a month now. July 28th was the last time he practiced for the Patriots. I know there's your station has a lot of tinfoil hat theories going on now about why he hasn't been out there. Could it be contract related, all those types of things. We can explain that here in a second, but overall, where's your panic meter right now with Christian Gonzalez?
So I was saying I'd go from lowercase W to uppercase W worried if he wasn't out here today. Vrabel kind of sounding less optimistic about it on Monday, maybe accelerated that process. If he's out here today, I'm not worried. Like, this is the first real, and they've been getting ready for the Raiders for a couple weeks now, but this is the first real, getting into it game week like practice. Yes. So he's out there. It's not a position where, and I think we talked about this with Carlton Davis during camp. It's not a position where, in the context of the defense, okay, he needs to be out there and he needs to be immersed in the scheme and this and that. Like, Vrabel has said they're going to play a lot of man coverage. It's study your opponent, pick up on his route tree, his tendencies, his nuances, know what he's going to do. It's more, tell me if this is unfair to say, Evan, corner, at least the way I think they're going to have Gonzalez play, is more of a film room preparation position than a practice field preparation position. Would you agree with that?
100% agree. He's out on an island by himself.
So, like, obviously there's being in physical shape, and he hasn't run with a receiver in a month.
That's the biggest thing.
You'd like him to get out there to kind of get that going, but if he's out there today, all right, like, he's out there for the full week, what's essentially the full week of practice. He's very talented. I'm not super worried about him missing time beyond basic conditioning stuff. He's not out there today. I mean, and it's a new coaching staff, so we'll see how they handle things because every staff's a little different. And this is something we'll kind of try to pick up on over the course of the season. But generally across the league, when guys don't practice on Wednesday, what's the rate of those guys playing? Unless it's a designated rest day, I think the percentage is relatively low. So you want to see him back out there today, but we'll see.
Yeah, so it's 100% to me a conditioning thing and not a mental locked into the game plan thing. Because for a guy like Christian Gonzalez, even against the Raiders, who don't necessarily really have, like, they don't have Devontae Adams anymore, right? That he has like a marquee matchup per se on the outside. But they're going to say to Christian Gonzalez, like, you have Jacoby Myers, right? Or you have Dante Thornton, or you have next week, you have Hill, you have Tyreek Hill. And all his preparation, like you mentioned, comes from watching cut-ups of those guys run routes. Like, that's what it is. It's film study, it's tendencies, it's all that kind of thing. You are at corner, you're really on an island. Like, it really is not a whole lot of, chemistry with other guys and play. It's not really all that. Like, there's corners that I think Ty Law used to be, like, famous for this, where, like, he'd stand up in the defensive meeting, he'd, like, kind of hit the desk a little bit, and he said, I got Eric Moulds.
What's the story?
See ya.
Right, I'm Ty. I think there's some expletives in there. I'm Ty Law. I got Marvin Harrison, and that's the
see you later. I'll see you Sunday.
Man, Ty Law is so cool.
Right, so like that I think is where Gonzalez is at. Second team All-Pro. Yeah. He's at that level. The one question that comes up with Gonzalez, now that we've given that part of the take, this is your station's fault. Your station's
So I have a take on this. Go ahead, but I have a legitimate question for you on this.
So Scott emailed in, and he kind of set the table on this question. Do we have any inkling from a tinfoil hat perspective that this is contract related for Christian Gonzalez? So to answer Scott's direct question, he's not extension eligible until next offseason.
Right.
He's going into your fourth year of your rookie contract. So he has to play this year on the rookie deal no matter what.
They cannot pay him yet.
Right. CBA thing. Can't pay him.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, like, this year could be a quote unquote contract year. You could look at it that way for Christian Gonzalez. But to me, if I'm Christian Gonzalez and just in general with Christian Gonzalez, the biggest thing that's holding him back from getting an absolute bag is availability.
All right, I'm with you.
There's no question whatsoever about performance. When he's on the field, whether it was the first month his rookie season or it was all last year, he is an all-pro caliber corner. So it's not going to come down to whether or not he's worth the money. What it's going to come down to is whether or not he's available to the team. So to me, holding out or sitting out, and I guess you could say, well, if he comes back too early and he tweaks the hamstring again, now he's missing games, yada, yada, yada. But if he's not out there today, he's missing games already. So I think the biggest thing that Christian Gonzalez can do to prove that he is worth the money that he performance-wise has rightfully earned next offseason is be available. So keeping himself off the field is the opposite of that.
I'm with you. Like, what hurts his value more? If he plays 10 to 12 games, but he plays them at the level he played last year better, or he plays 16 or 17 games, but he's like 80% of the player he was last year. Which one hurts him more? Contractually.
not being available.
Right, the fewer games. So you look, Sauce Gardner was not very good last year. Relative, he was not an all-pro.
Well, that's the guy that gets brought up, is that Sauce Gardner. Some people think that Sauce Gardner made a business decision to ease up a little bit last year, which also doesn't make any sense. But
it was his first year, not as he was an all-pro the 2 years prior. He wasn't an all-pro last year, but he still got paid because he was out there and it's on tape. And I think last year's tape is going to speak a ton. Now, Gonzalez can't go out there and suck, right? Like, he's still got to be good, but I think the availability is a bigger question than the ability at this point. Now, that's what we think. Maybe him and his team see it differently. At the end of the day, it only matters what he thinks in that regard.
The other side of it is that if he comes back too soon and he rushes back and then he tweaks the hamstring worse in a game, then now he's missing time.
So that's the other side of it. What's you weigh this. Let's even call 2 games, right? Because if it's a hamstring thing in Miami, it's hot. You can cramp up. You worry about that. He misses the first 2 games of the year, but then he's available the rest of the season, full go, 100%. Or you rush him back for this week or next week and he aggravates the hamstring and now he misses 6 weeks. Right? I'd rather he miss the 2 games. I'd rather he just miss less time.
100%.
They need him for more games. So I am okay with them being cautious if that's what this is. Obviously, if he's not practicing because of his contract, that's not what you want. But
I don't think that's what's happening.
I don't think that's what it is. I think it's him being cautious. I also think they're being cautious with their best player.
If he's available,
I don't have a problem with that.
If he's available for the majority of the season and he plays like he did last year, he's going to get paid.
He's going to get the biggest contract a cornerback's ever gotten.
He's going to get the money. So I don't think that there's enough incentive this early on. If this was next offseason and he still hadn't signed an extension yet and he had a tweaked hamstring, that's a totally different story. But to do that a year in advance, I think that's a little bit too conspiracy theory for me. We have to take a break, but there's one last thing that we had on our list, and this is going to be quick because it's a special teams thing. What's your kickoffs thing? Go for it.
Well, let's just see. They changed the rule. It's a 35-yard touchback. This is going to be a bigger play than it's been in the past. And how does that ultimately look? I think this play can be a weapon for teams that are good at it. You can steal 7 points. And the Patriots look good at it in the preseason. So how much of the preseason was teams testing things versus teams maybe not wanting to show their full hand of what they're going to do? We'll see. But it seemed like Jeremy Springer and that unit had a great camp. Can they make that kickoff on both sides? Can they make that kickoff play a weapon? Can they make it a weapon for the offense and create short fields and put points on the board? And can they make it a weapon for the defense and create long fields for the opponent? I love that they saved the kickoff instead of getting rid of it. Obviously, yes, in a perfect world, the old format was great, but that was just for a number of reasons never going to last. I think this new format, when you get past how weird it looks initially, is a real, true football play, and it's enjoyable to watch. I want to see if the Patriots can take advantage of maybe seemingly getting ahead of it a little bit.
My quick take on this, I think they have multiple guys, but they're probably going to start out with Henderson and Antonio Gibson that are actually really well suited for big returns in this new format. I think that's an advantage for them. I think they actually have really good returners. You can throw, they haven't done this yet with Marcus Jones, but Marcus Jones we know is a great punt returner, and I think it would translate for him on kickoffs if they wanted to go that direction as well. So they have multiple guys that I feel like can be really good at this and be factors to your point on it. And because of the way the new rule is set up, it's inviting returns. Like they want more returns. So if you are forcing teams to put the ball in play and the Patriots have 2 dynamic returners back there, then that is an advantage, maybe more so than what it has been in the past. So I look at it and I think that this is going to be more of a live play this year. I think this is going to be more legitimate of a factor because if you fly the ball into the end zone, it's the 35-yard line, right? As the touchback, that's a big difference in field position. If you fly the ball right out of the back of the end zone and take the touchback, you only got to go that's 65 yards for a touchdown. With the way kickers can kick the ball now, field goal kickers, how long are you really having to go to get points on the board?
Right.
It's not that much. So I think this is going to be a big deal. I think there's going to be a lot more balls in play from a kickoff perspective. And the Patriots in the preseason, especially with Henderson, but in general, they have good returners. So this could be an advantage for the team that's maybe was a bigger deal now with the new rules than it has been in the past. Because I know a lot of people roll their eyes at this kind of stuff when we talk about special teams. But
no, this is an important play
this is
year.
New and different. Now, I am wondering, though, really quickly, if this ends up being too much of an impact on the game, like there's just big returns all over the place, might be exciting, but I don't necessarily think that's what the league had in mind when they put this rule in, is that all of a sudden the game is being decided on kickoff returns. I don't think that that was the goal. So if that's the case, then I wonder if it becomes tweaked again next offseason. If all of a sudden, guys, everybody looks like Cordero Patterson and there's just returns left and right. I don't know if that's exactly what they had in mind. All right, we have to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and we'll get on to the Raiders.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right.
DraftKings is all about responsible gaming. It's more fun when it's for fun. So play responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction.
Catch-22.
All right, we are back, and confidence. It's important to have when you're on the road with Bridgestone tires on your car, truck, SUV, or minivan. You're riding on tires you can trust. Bridgestone tires are engineered to give you peace of mind so you can focus on enjoying the journey. So whether you're on your morning commute, a cross-country road trip, or a relaxing Sunday drive, Bridgestone tires will be with you wherever life's roads may lead. Bridgestone solutions for your journey, available now at Sullivan Tire. And visit MA. Catch-22 is sponsored by the Massachusetts 250 campaign, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at Massachusetts250.org. All right, let's open the show up. These guys have been waiting on hold for a while. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, guys?
How we doing?
Hey.
I am doing all right. I just wanted to kind of rewind to earlier this preseason where I met you guys. I do have a couple questions, but I just wanted to say, like, Evan, I meant what I said to you when I said you're the best damn analyst in the league.
Oh, thanks, man.
But Alex, when I approached you, you had this look in your eye like, who the hell is this weirdo coming towards me? But
I'm sorry about that. It always takes me, man. You hear voices, but you don't see faces, so.
Yeah, right. But, you know, I was lucky enough to take in 2 practices, and it was awesome. It was a great experience just all around. I got a really good feeling about this team this year. But on to the questions. The first one is, how do you guys feel like they're going to defend Brock Bowers? Because to me, well, I mean, Ashton Genty's a big unknown, but Brock Bowers is by far their best skilled player. Do you think they trying to cover him one-on-one with Spillane, which I think would be a mistake? Do you think they pepper him with Woodson or Hawkins and possibly Alex Austin in the slot and just, like, take turns and see who does better? And this is a little bit more question for Evan, because Alex, past 2 weeks, I've thrown some questions at you. And by the way, Nick Harbor, I want that guy. That he should add 2 touchdowns. But do you think the key to winning this game, Evan, and well, both of you, but Evan, you could probably go into a little bit more detail, is coming out and playing predominantly in 21 personnel and kind of taking the game to the Raiders, the kind of game that the Raiders want to play, because Carroll's going to want to establish the run. They're going to want to ram the rookie right down our throats, but just, take that and take it to them and sort of beat them at their own game and be the more physical team. I'll take it off air, guys.
Thanks, Patty. Two good questions. Let's talk a little bit about Bowers now, and I'm sure we were going to do key matchups. I'm assuming he was on both of our lists of how they're going to match up against him anyway, so we can just get this out of the way. With Bowers, this is a really fun first test because I don't think the Raiders' roster talent outside of their big names like Bowers and Max Crosby is overwhelming, but they have two guys in Bowers and Crosby who are two guys that just profile as players that could give the Patriots problems. So in a vacuum, it's like a good first matchup because it's one, I think it shows you who's capable of covering tight ends that are as dynamic as Bowers on the roster, but it also shows us the first game plan of the Mike Vrabel era.
Right.
Are they going to be Belichickian in how they game plan, where they are going to have a unique wrinkle for Brock Bowers, especially in passing situations, 3rd down, 2-minute, whatever? Or are they going to kind of play their base coverages and play their defense and just think that the system is going to be able to hold up against a guy like Bowers? I tend to think it's going to be the game plan thing, and I'm really hoping it's going to be the game plan thing because I think the best teams do it that way. So for Bowers, there's two options. You can either bracket him out of the game, you can double him, or you could put a corner on him, a true corner like Alex Austin or Carlton Davis, and just hope that because he's a tight end and he's not really a true wide receiver, that a corner is going to have the man coverage skills to go up against Bowers, because he's not particularly big. Like, he's only 6'3", 240. He's not Gronk. He's not a 6'7", 250, 60-pound tight end. He's definitely more in that Travis Kelce build. So you could technically put a corner on him and they could go man-to-man, and that matchup could make a little bit of sense. How do you see them just overall? Do you think they're going to be really game plan heavy? And then specifically on Bowers, how do you see them taking care of Bowers?
I mean, I'd like to see them put a corner on him. Now, it's a little tougher if you don't have Christian Gonzalez. I think either way, Carlton Davis is the guy. Just a little more physical, a little more play strength, probably the guy you want on a tight end guy. I've compared him to Aqib Talib, and this is what they used to do with Aqib Talib back in the day. Put him on Jimmy Graham, put him on Tony Gonzalez, and have him kind of try to wipe him out of the game. Then if you have Gonzalez, it's easy to me because it's Gonzalez on Jacoby Myers, it's Carlton Davis on Brock Bowers. I know Dante Thornton's kind of had a nice camp for them, but between Alex Austin, Marcus Jones, DJ James, I think if they beat you throwing a Dante Thornton,
Thornton is we've been there
tip
with
your
the
cap
Thornton.
to Geno Smith at that
Dante
point.
Thornton is a training camp star. Like, he's the guy that he's DK Metcalf in training camp. Let's see what it looks like when it's the real thing.
If they beat the Patriots throwing a Dante Thornton, you tip your cap and
Agreed.
you move on, right? But if they don't have Gonzalez, Jacoby Myers can get you. Like, Jacoby Myers, you do have to have a plan for too. Bowers is still the number one option, but is it now? Do you want Davis on Myers? Do you trust, Marcus Jones? There's a little bit of a size mismatch there. Alex Austin, where is it? Do you trust him on Myers for a full game? It gets a little more complicated. I'd still probably try that and maybe bracket Myers, and you just hope Carlton Davis takes care of business against Brock Bowers. But there's more ifs in that plan. So I think with Gonzalez, it's clear cut. Without Gonzalez, a little less so, but they still should be okay.
So I normally would say double Bowers and put your best corner on Myers. That's normally the approach that I would probably take.
Which, again, if you have Christian Gonzalez, I think that's exactly what you do.
Right, but at the same time, specifically to Carlton Davis, I guess more so, the Raiders just don't have outside receivers that scare me. I'm going to have to see it from Dante Thornton. Like, Dante Thornton, right. I know he's had a good camp. Like I just said, to me, he's the exact type of player that would have a good training camp.
Real quick to reset their wide receiver room, Jack Betch, a rookie who's a big slot. Amari Cooper, who signed last week.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers, Dante Thornton, and they do have Trey Tucker who has some speed.
So to me, their receiving core is going to be Thornton, Myers, and Tucker. I think those three guys are going to play the majority.
Betch was a second-round pick.
I know, but I don't know where. I haven't heard anything about Jack Betch in training camp.
Do you think they do that Patriots thing where they just use essentially 2 slot guys, and then it's Thornton and Tucker on the outside?
Tucker to me is more of like a Pop Douglas.
That's true.
He's more of like a speed slot. So Tucker, I think, is obvious. Marcus Jones can take Tucker. That's fine.
Yep.
Dante Thornton, I'm putting Alex Austin or DJ James out there, probably Alex Austin, and just living with it.
I would even if Tucker's not on the field, I could even put Marcus Jones on Dante Thornton. I know Thornton has the height, but Marcus Jones is
worried about the height.
But Marcus Jones is the foot speed to stay with him, and is he somebody you really think is going to go out there? Marcus Jones is physical. Is Thornton going to go out there and moss people?
Yes. I think that's what he was doing in the preseason.
Okay.
Winning at the catch point. I would put Alex Austin on Thornton.
All right.
And then ideally you have Gonzo to cover Jacoby Myers. Now, if Gonzo isn't there, then this whole thing does get complicated.
Right.
And this is where Gonzo's impact. It's not necessarily that I think that they have like a Jamar Chase level receiver that not having Gonzo for is going to be problematic. It's just the trickle down effect of if you want to use a corner on Brock Bowers, now you have to put Alex Austin on Myers because he's the better player. So now you are getting into a situation where a Marcus Jones, a DJ James, somebody like that is playing, first of all, a high volume of outside cornerback snaps, but is also playing against a guy like Dante Thornton who does have size and speed. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But I'm with you. If Geno Smith beats you throwing bombs to Dante Thornton, then you kind of tip the cap, and that's right. You live with that. So I think Brock Bowers might be to the level already where it's Carlton Davis and help. Like, I think you need to have 2 sets of eyes on Bowers on third down. I don't think even Carlton Davis, who's a good player, and I have confidence in Carlton Davis, I don't even think that is just enough. Like, this guy Bowers is a unique talent. He's an elite player. So I think you on third down especially, you're going to have 2 sets of eyes on Brock Bowers, even if it is a corner that's covering him. So I would say that if it's no Gonzo, you have Davis with safety help on Brock Bowers in the middle of the field, Alex Austin on Jacoby Myers, and then whoever the third receiver is matchup based. Or it's DJ James maybe for a little bit more size, even though he's not a big dude necessarily, but maybe a little bit more size. Then Marcus Jones on Dante Thornton, or it's just Marcus Jones on Tucker or Thornton. I think Tucker is going to play a lot on third down. That
makes sense.
He's a Pop Douglas type. He's a speed slot, good separator, good field stretcher from the slot. I would definitely think he would play a lot. I'm interested to see what they do with Bowers. It's a first real example that we're going to have of how game plan oriented are they going to be? How are they a bracket team? Are they going to bracket guys? Are they going to put 2 true double teams on him? Based off their Tennessee tape, they definitely have bracket calls within their coverage. I watched a little bit of them against the Dolphins just to get ahead for next week, and they were doubling Waddle and Hill in that matchup in 2023. So they definitely have those bracket calls that Belichick would have, a cone bracket where you're inside out, or over-under bracket where there's a safety over the top and a corner underneath. And then you have, cover 7, which is really a split safety coverage, but the safeties are bracketing instead of playing zone. They're bracketing receivers instead. So that's a Saban terminology that goes around a lot. So you have that ability with Bowers. Now, you don't need to double Jacoby Myers, I don't think. I like Jacoby, great player. I don't think he's double category.
I think not with the corner talent that they have.
Yeah, I would agree. To Patty's second question, my guess is that we're going to see the Patriots come out in heavy personnel on offense and try to establish the line of scrimmage. That's a season-long thing. Like, they're going to want to be the more physical team for 17 straight games. So I think dominating or trying to establish and win the line of scrimmage, as much as that kind of stuff gets my nerd senses, all out of whack, that to me is going to be just
it's the matter. Afraid you're going to have to establish the run.
Unfortunately, it's just how they want to play. It's how Mike Vrabel wants to play, and it's not about are they going to be Derrick Henry Titans era and they're just going to run the ball. And no, I think they're still going to pass the ball and be aggressive throwing the football. But I definitely think that from a just setting a tone standpoint, I do think that they're going to come out in the opening drive with Jack Westover in the backfield as the lead fullback, and they're going to want to run it down Vegas's throats. Running the football is also a nice way, even though he's a really good run player as well. When you run it at pass rushers, they don't like it so much.
Right.
So if you can throw a bunch of different angles at Max Crosby, pull at him, lead the fullback at him, wham him, like do a bunch of different pitches, like change up your pitches of how you're attacking him, you can start to get him on his heels a little bit and start forcing him to think and process the game. And that often can slow down how good he is as a pass rusher. And if he's getting ear hold and he's getting guards are pulling towards him and he's got to hold up like that, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to fly up the field and get the ball, right? Like, that's what Max Crosby wants to do. So if you can come out and you can frankly punch him in the mouth a little bit, that often helps with a lot of these pass rushers. Now, Crosby's a different animal. He's a great player against the run and the pass. So this isn't necessarily one of those guys that's like a finesse player that can be taken out of the game that way, but I still think it can be an advantage. So I expect both those things to happen. Let's take Garrett. Is that PL? Florida. FL. What's up, Garrett? Garrett. All right, Garrett, call us back. We had you on hold for a little bit. Let's get to Ben in Philly. What's up, Ben?
Hey, yeah, I just had a question about how you feel Mike Vrabel handles media differently than in the past. So with the Forged in Foxborough series, it just seems like there's a high level of media access that we get to see as fans, which is great. How do you guys think that's going to impact the team, and will this continue going forward?
Yeah, Ben, thanks for the call. So to be clear, Fortune and Foxborough is being produced in-house. So maybe this is a little bit inside baseball, but
yeah.
Not to like say Ben was wrong, but I wouldn't consider that media, right? Like
yeah, that's different than like the beat reporters. It's
yes.
Like, yeah, that's a Patriots production.
Correct. It's a craft sports production. That's an internal thing. Now, I will give Mike Vrabel, I will thank Mike Vrabel for last couple of practices that we got to see. Those were not required practices to be open to the media, and he allowed the media as a whole, beat writers, everybody, to watch 2 more additional practices when they got back from New York from the final preseason game. So we got maybe a few more practices than we would normally get from Mike Vrabel from a training camp standpoint. But I would say it's pretty consistent. Like, this is all stuff, and it's guidelines. It's not necessarily required, but this is all stuff that the Pro Football Writers Association and the league have an agreement on, of like how much access we're going to get in terms of media availability, press conferences, practice availability. Like, a lot of this stuff is already kind of outlined ahead of time of how that's all going to work. And then with Forge, we'll see. You stay tuned on Forge. Have you watched episode 3 yet?
I've watched like half of it. I need to catch up on it.
It
dropped right before college football Saturday, so it was like
this was my favorite episode of the 3. Not that I thought all of them were great, but this episode in particular I really enjoyed, because this is the best time for the behind the scenes access with training camp, where you have the Afton Chisholm storyline and the Elijah Ponder storylines of the undrafted guys trying to make the team. You have the team coming together. You have practice footage, live practice footage, Mike Vrabel, jumping into the pile. Like, you have all these different things. Whereas once we get into the season, it becomes a little bit more formulaic, and there's not those underdog stories necessarily. And this is why Hard Knocks is great, is because of this time of year in training camp. So I felt the same way about Forge. So Forge 3 is out now. Stay tuned about Forge 4 and beyond. That's way above my pay grade to make those decisions of when these things happen. So we'll see about that. But that's let's talk a little college football. Want to talk a little college football?
Always.
We have a college football question, and this is something that I've been wondering, Alex. And I know what I think your answer is going to be, but I'm curious. So this is from Aiden in California. And he said he loves the show. Thanks, Aiden. And that he was watching some college football this past weekend. So was I. I watched a decent amount of college football
and
this past weekend. Did you enjoy it? I somewhat enjoyed it. Sure.
Yeah, you did.
No, I have some gripes, but it's fine. I think that, just quickly get this off my chest, college quarterbacks drive me crazy. the next college quarterback to recognize that the slot is blitzing, it will be the first. Like, this can't be this
Part
hard.
of what makes it fun. It's chaotic.
It
I'm
can't
telling
be
you,
this hard. You're hot to the field, bro. You're hot. Like, throw the ball.
So I think that's part of what makes it fun. It's like you can see it because you can see it and they can't.
That's
you don't enjoy that a little bit?
How is that good? Like, that's bad football.
So I think this year's class as a whole is kind of overrated. There's some guys I like, but I think people are too high on it. The next couple of classes. So you're going to have next year is DJ Lagway. Next year, I'm trying to remember who else is in it.
Arch Manning.
We saw Arch Manning on Sunday.
This is my point.
DJ Lagway, Julian Sayin, the kid from TCU is probably going to stay another year. Hoover. Yeah. He was good. And then I'll say that some of the true freshmen. So first of all, Bryce Underwood. I don't know. You probably didn't watch any of Michigan. They were playing New Mexico. And granted, it was against New Mexico. Bryce Underwood looked. And look, he's the number one quarterback recruit in the country. He should look really good. He looks unbelievable. Also, Maryland has a true freshman quarterback, Malik Washington, who was kind of nice. Again, it was against a lesser opponent, but this year's quarterback class is fine. It's definitely better than last year. I think more guys are going to fall than rise as we go through the process. The next 2 years I'm very excited for. Last year's true freshman, and then this year's true freshman, I think, is a strong class.
I was overall pretty disappointed by what I saw from this quarterback class because I do think there is some hype around this quarterback class.
There is. And look, I think Klubnik is another guy that's maybe been propped up by the system in Clemson. Nussmeier, 10 years ago, Garrett, or 15 years ago, Garrett Nussmeier's a first-round pick. Now I wonder if maybe his athleticism puts a ceiling on things. But there's individual traits there you like. I don't know that he's ultimately going to prove
he seemed to have the
to
best
be that first-round profile.
From a reading the defense, like pre-snap.
Right.
But that only takes you so far, as we know.
Fernando Mendoza didn't really play anybody. Sam Levitt didn't play anybody. Jordan Tyson, though, goes for 127 yards. Been telling you about Jordan. It was against Northern Arizona, so we'll wait and see. The one guy I came away really impressed with from this upcoming class was Lenora Sellers. Took him a little bit to get going in that game, but once he got going,
in the fourth quarter.
And that's not uncommon for week one, college and the NFL. So we'll see. Again, he's got to do more, but a lot of these guys just kind of trudged along all game. His ability to adjust within the game, I thought, was impressive, and he was the one guy I thought more or less lived up to expectations.
So to go back to the emailer, the question here from Aiden is about Caleb Downs, who I know is one of your favorite players in college football.
I want to know what you thought watching Caleb Downs. So, that's what I'm curious about.
I have to admit, I think Caleb Downs is a great player. I mean, you could see it all on the tape last year, from their national championship run. Those that don't know, he's a safety at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Caleb Downs. Some people, I don't necessarily see like, I don't know exactly who I would compare him to yet.
So did you see Todd McShay's comp?
No, who is it?
A young Ed Reed.
So
that's McShay, who's not a hot take guy.
I don't see Ed Reed.
Stylistically, he's not the same guy.
No,
I'm with you. It was a weird comp, but just to throw that out there.
He plays way more closer to the line of scrimmage than Ed Reed did.
He's kind of everywhere.
Yeah. So the question from Aiden is, would Caleb Downs be a possible pick for the Patriots next year? Just to keep it 100, Caleb Downs might be the best non-quarterback player in the entire draft.
I think he might be the best player in the entire draft.
Sure. Best player in the entire draft. But he's not going to go number one overall. They're not taking a safety number one overall.
Probably not. If one was going to go number one, he's the profile, but probably not. You're right.
He's not going to. So the two questions with Caleb Downs, I know that this is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. The fact that he's a safety is going to come into play. The positional value of drafting a safety in the top 5 or the top 10 is going to come into play. It just doesn't happen very often. And Caleb Downs being an exceptional player might just be the exception to that. It reminds me a little bit of Kyle Hamilton coming out. Now, Kyle Hamilton bombed the combine, right? He had a bad workout and that pushed him down the board. But I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility that because he plays safety, because you're going to have potentially 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are going to go early. Although he played poorly, I think Caden Proctor and Spencer Fano are still going to go pretty early at tackle. And then you also have Peter Woods and the Clemson defenders who are more pass rusher defensive line types.
Did you watch any of Miami Notre Dame.
A little bit.
Number 4 on defense for Miami, Ruben Bain.
Yeah, so all those guys
So he's another guy that
are premium position players. So I don't think it's totally crazy to say that if the Patriots have a better but not great season, let's say they win 6 to 8 games and they're picking in the early teens of the draft, Caleb Downs, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility that Caleb Downs could be on the board for them.
And he'd be a great fit for this defense.
100%.
I'll just say this. Hamilton went 14th. Kyle Hamilton was obviously a great safety prospect.
Yes.
Caleb Downs is better. Caleb Downs, I think,
Agreed.
is in another tier.
And I don't think Caleb Downs is going to have athletic testing issues.
No.
That's what put Kyle Hamilton down.
So there's 2 guys in this draft. The other thing I think, and I don't know if it's going to help or hurt Caleb Downs, you're getting much more, and we hear this all the time, the college game is 10 years ahead of the NFL. The innovations that we're seeing in college usually get to the NFL a decade later. That's why guys like Tavon Austin and the guy from Florida, why am I blanking on his name?
Kadarius Toney?
No, earlier.
Guy from Florida?
Yeah, the speedster.
Jeff Demps?
No, same team. He played Percy Harvin.
Oh, Percy Harvin.
That's why these guys didn't hit in the NFL. You put Percy Harvin in the NFL now, he's a stud. But teams just didn't know how to use that guy yet. You're seeing a lot more positionless football in college right now defensively, and Caleb Downs is a safety, but he's also not just a safety. He can play linebacker. He can play slot corner. And it's not like, okay, a safety who can play. He's not like a box safety who you're calling a linebacker because he's lining up in the box. He can play linebacker. He can rush the passer. He can fit the run. Another guy I look at, and I got some questions about him on Twitter this weekend, and I'm a big fan, is Harold Perkins. So if you watch that LSU game, number 7 on defense, where he's listed as a linebacker, he kind of plays more like a safety. And he has some coverage responsibilities. He'll rush the passer. He does a little bit of everything. And are NFL teams ready for that guy yet? That you don't really have a position. You can kind of do everything. It's either you create a role in the defense for that guy that's hard to match up with, or you use him as a matchup player differently week to week. I don't think Caleb Downs' role is going to be the same next week. And I don't think it'll be the same the week after that. I think Matt Patricia is going to kind of use him as a fixer, as a stopper, depending on what the other team does well. Harold Perkins is more of a true linebacker, but I think you'll see some of the same with him. You'll see him in coverage more some weeks. You see him rushing the passer more some weeks. There have been some Micah Parsons-ish comps with him. Now, he's coming off a torn ACL, so he's got to show the athleticism can stay up. But the point being, I wonder if Caleb Downs, he might fall because of the positional value. He might just be so good that if you get the right defensive coordinator looking at it and saying, this guy can do everything I want him to do, that kind of nullifies it. Because that's the way college teams are using their best players right now. Some of the best defensive players in college football, they don't have a position. They just kind of do whatever's asked of them. And that's coming to the NFL. Maybe not this year, maybe not with this class, but it's coming, and this class between Downs and Perkins would be a good place to start.
So Caleb Downs, I want to say that I think the Patriots are going to be better, and I hope the Patriots are going to be too good to draft Caleb Downs. But when you cut Jabrill Peppers, and definitely seems like Kyle Duggar is not part of the long-term plans here with the Patriots and Mike Vrabel. If the Patriots have a better but not great season, like I said earlier, and they only win 7 or 8 games and they're picking in the early teens, I think Caleb Downs would be a slam dunk, home run type of fit for them to fill safety and have an impact safety, like a true playmaking safety.
Caleb Downs is I don't care what your needs are, run up the card, pick them, play. But
it's going to be a need. It is
going to be a need, but I know people have gotten
perfect combination of
people
those
have gotten
things
on this show, and maybe me in particular, for harping on the need part of the draft too much. If Caleb Downs is realistically in play for the Patriots, that you're not going to hear that take from this show. The site, clip it if you want. I'd be very surprised if I change course on that unless he gets hurt. Derwin James, Buda Baker might be 2 comps for Caleb Downs, but he's
a better player than those
there isn't
guys.
Really a player in the NFL.
He might
like
not be
him.
better than Derwin, but Buda Baker's
prime
really
Derwin,
good.
not Derwin's. He's
Derwin's
still a good player.
I don't know if he's as thick as Derwin. All right, well,
he's a big guy.
We'll work on that. Let's get back to the phones. Mark is in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
What's going on, my brothers?
Hey.
So Peppers, totally shocked at that. I mean, just a veteran presence in the room at that. And a Mike Vrabel kind of guy, I always thought. So I'm shocked at that. I'm also shocked at the Stefon Diggs. that he's not a captain, because I was there a lot at training camp, and the guy's a vocal leader. Seems like he's going to be a good fit for the wide receivers, for the youngins. And then my last thing is number 87 now. Who's going to wear number 87 if Jack Westover is now taking over 13, Gronk's number?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mark. Number 87, maybe nobody? I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
He did say he's going to retire. By the way, Derwin 6'2", 215, Caleb Downs 6', 205.
Yeah, so not Derwin's bigger.
Derwin's taller, but 10 pounds, 2 inches, like that's
a lot of size.
All right.
That matters. If you didn't know.
Downs might be bulkier, I'm saying.
More compact.
More compact, yeah.
Got it.
Muscle hamster.
Sam is in Virginia. What's up, Sam?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Appreciate you taking my call. So just 2 quick questions on the O-line. So it looks like Jared Wilson's going to start the year at left guard. In the McDaniels offense, which is generally the more valuable or important position, left guard or center? Just want to better understand his long-term value. And second is about Josh Simmons. It looks like he's going to start week 1 for the Chiefs. Knowing in the pre-draft process he was considered maybe the top left tackle prospect, do you think, knowing what we know now, that the Patriots might have considered him over Campbell or ranked him over Campbell if they knew he'd be healthy for week 1? I'm just curious about that, but appreciate you taking my call. I'll take it offline.
Thanks, Sam. No, I don't think so.
You didn't know. I mean, yeah, hindsight's 50-50.
Is that it?
2020.
It's 2020.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
No,
You don't think, with the Raiders knowing what they know now, go back and draft Calvin Johnson over Jamarcus? But like,
don't pick on the caller too much.
I'm not picking on the caller, but I've seen this a few times.
It's a question that we knew was coming, Alex. Like, you and I have been steadfast on this about Josh Simmons during the draft process, that we would not have taken the risk on Josh Simmons. And if Josh Simmons goes on and is a franchise tackle for the Chiefs, we'll never live it down.
We'll never live it down. But
that's
look,
the business.
You didn't know, and you couldn't know. You looked at the medicals. I don't think the Patriots were the only team that were afraid of the medicals, because he fell all the way to 32nd.
There was no way they were drafting Josh Simmons at 4 overall.
I also
a much different conversation.
I don't know. People say, well, he was the top-ranked tackle in the Patriots. Where was he the top? Will Campbell was top-ranked tackle everywhere.
But he was probably considered the best pass protecting left tackle in the draft, like the pure blindside protector thing. But my whole thing with Josh Simmons was not just the injury. It was also the fact that he had such a small sample size of really good performance. His tape from 23 to 24 improved significantly over that time. And he really only did it against scrubs in 2024 because he got hurt halfway through the Oregon game and didn't play the rest of the season. So you never actually saw him against NFL caliber competition. He dominated Michigan State and like that level of competition. Yeah. But how is he going to look in a full game against Oregon in the college football playoff? Like those types of matchups, you never would have known. And as a team like the Patriots, that the most important thing for the Patriots right now when it comes to drafting is getting on base. Like they need to hit on these picks. And there's just a lot of inherent risk that was coming with Josh Simmons, both from was it going to translate, and was it actually real, what we saw at the beginning before he got hurt, and injury history, that they are just not in a position to take risks on players like that. The Kansas City Chiefs are exactly in the position to take a risk on a player
we talked about
that.
Patriots took, my comp for him was, who was it? The defensive lineman from Florida. Why can't I do names today? The defensive tackle who had the torn ACL.
From Florida?
Yeah.
Dominique Easley?
Yeah, because the Patriots could take that risk. Dominique Easley was a top 10 talent who had bad knees, and they didn't know if he'd stay healthy. And just one more thing. He made it to week 1 knowing he'd be healthy. Do you think they would have drafted him?
Not 4 overall.
It's not like these are mostly non-contact practices. He now has to stay healthy over the course of this season and the next. And then
there was too much risk.
There's too much risk with that injury. Yeah, there's way too much risk with that injury.
Injury and performance.
And
which go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But like it didn't make sense for this team. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, like those are teams that can take on those kinds of risks. The Patriots are just not in that spot. It's not exactly apples to apples, but it's not that different than being in on Micah Parsons. Right, like they're just not ready for that type of stuff yet. If they're good, and they get into the second round next year and they won 10 games this year, and you want to talk me into them drafting a guy that has an injury history, then okay, then that's a different conversation. Dominique Easley, right? Sony Michel, like those guys, like that's a different conversation. To the first point, what was his first question?
What's more important in the McDaniels offense, left guard or center?
I would probably say left guard because the quarterback handles so much of the pre-snap responsibilities that's typically on the center in a offense. I just think guard is inherently more valuable than center to begin with because you have a lot more one-on-one pass protection opportunities versus at center. But even more so in a scheme like this where the quarterback is the one calling the protections and not the center, I think it even devalues the center maybe even a little bit more than what it would in other systems. Sorry, David Andrews. Don't mean any disrespect to him or any guys that have played center here. That's just how I personally feel about it. But I could see Jared Wilson being good either spot, and we'll see. Before we wrap up the show here, Alex, I do want to give kind of a couple more takes on this game on Sunday. There's a game that the Patriots are playing. We normally do key matchups. I don't know if we have time to do all the key matchups.
We did one with Bowers.
And Crosby, we kind of covered that as well. But what's just your general feelings going into this game? Because for me, I think the most fascinating aspect of this game is coaching for both teams.
Yeah.
It's two brand new coaching staffs. Pete Carroll.
Two overall rosters.
Chip Kelly has not coached at this level in a decade. So we have really no idea. We could obviously go back and watch Ohio State, but that's just really not the same thing at all. So we have no real idea exactly of what an NFL offense for Chip Kelly looks like in the modern times here. It's not going to be Oregon and Philadelphia. I can tell you that. It's going to be different. It's probably going to be less pace and slow down a little bit more. But I think this game is going to be won and lost, and this is why I gave a slight edge to the Patriots by in-game adjustments, which once the game declares and both sides and both sidelines sort of get a feel for how the new staffs are coaching it and how their base schemes and all that good stuff. Once they have a good feel for that, who blinks first, right? Who has the ability to adjust? Who has the ability to attack weaknesses and all that good stuff? I think is ultimately going to decide this game. And I just have a little bit more faith from that standpoint in Vrabel and McDaniels because I've seen them do it before, and I think they're two of the best at it on their respective sides of the ball. Whereas Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, I think those guys are kind of do what you do sort of coaches. Like they have their systems, they have their schemes, especially Carroll on defense. And I don't view him as like a game plan coach very much. So this is a really big week one's always an unknown. It's always a mystery box of what exactly you're going to get. But with these rosters being so different from the past, these coaching staffs are completely new. This is week one on steroids. Like this is a complete mystery box of what exactly that they're going to get. I have faith in McDaniels, especially that he's going to be able to adjust though.
I think it's probably going to be messy. It's probably going to be sloppy. Week one is the most unpredictable game of the season. I think that the Raiders are probably going to come right out. And look, I'm not saying they won't throw to Bowers, but if I'm the Raiders, I look at the Patriots up front. I test it, and you just use the top 10 pick on a running back.
Oh, they're going to run the ball.
I make them stop the run before I go to anything else. That's what I do if I'm the Raiders. So I think we're going to see a good amount of Ash and Genty early. I think how the Patriots handle that dictate the rest of the game. On the other side of the ball, like you said earlier, I think we see the Patriots try to establish the run. I think they ease Drake Maye into it. I think they get him a couple of those layups before they maybe start taking some shots down the field. I also wouldn't be surprised if they feature Diggs early and get Diggs in rhythm. And you hear guys talk about coming off a torn ACL or any major injury, really, any significant missed amount of time, just how much it helps to get into the rhythm right away and get the ball right away and get hit a couple times right away and just shake the cobwebs off and get back in that familiar mindset. So, runs early, quick stuff to Diggs. I would love to see some RPOs.
Yeah.
You can mix the two of those in together. We'll see how much we see of that. One other thing I wonder about McDaniels, I'm curious your thoughts on this. So just looking at some of the colleges he visited last year, and we ultimately don't know how much he took from everybody, but one thing you're seeing more in college football now that is another thing I think is coming to the NFL at some point. I think this is probably less impactful in the NFL than it is in college because the players are smarter. But what you see college teams do now, it's not hurry up in the sense that get to the line, snap the ball quick, but teams will know huddle. But then you get to the line and you kind of, all right, you make your checks, you call the play at the line. So you're still
got the signs on the sideline.
Right. Well, you're not going to have that in the NFL, but
or college really anymore.
Yeah, they don't really have that anymore because of the headsets. But the idea is like
it's not just the headsets.
You don't huddle.
Yeah.
So that the defense can't huddle and it makes it harder for them to substitute or whatever. But you're not rushing. You're still snapping the ball. 15, 20 seconds left on the play clock. Drake Maye did some of that at North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the offense they have, and to help kind of Drake Maye stay ahead of things and simplify things, you force the defense to kind of declare a look and stay in it. I wonder if we see some of that from McDaniels, if not in this game, at some point this season.
That's what I'm most looking forward to seeing from McDaniels is he's so good at getting you trapped in personnel on the field that they like matchups against you. So, like, let's say they put like 3 safety nickel out there.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy Chin is covering Pop Douglas in the slot. What McDaniels will do is he'll go hurry up. He'll go no huddle, and he won't allow you to substitute because they just love the personnel that you have on the field. And then the other things that he likes to do is win with formations. Like, we're going to put a running back out wide. We're going to put a fullback out wide, right? And we're able to figure out man zone and then also find those matchups in the middle of the field. So it's an exciting all-around time for the Patriots. But we got to wrap up because Unfiltered is up next here at noon. But before we get going, let's hear it for the team. Bob's Discount Furniture just opened its 200th store, and you can join in on the celebration. Make your way to your nearest store to shop the latest styles like the Phantom Power reclining sofa made for kicking back on game day, the Elm dining set made with real marble that's sure to impress the home team, and the stylish Calvin bedroom designed to help you dream up your next tailgating party. Plus, you enjoy free treats, limited edition stickers, and more surprises this Labor Day weekend. So stop in and check out the winning lineup at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots, and easy to drink, easy to enjoy Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. I got all the reads in. We're done for the show this week. We'll be back next Wednesday to break down the Patriots versus the Raiders, preview the Dolphins. PU is up next here at noon. We'll see you guys soon. Hey, this is Evan. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure to like us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, make sure to follow on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else we do here at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.